So, Suspiria from 2018, Some Like It Hot from 1959, and The Divorce of Lady X from 1938 were the 13th, 14th, and 15th films that I watched for my 30 Days, 30 Films movie challenge that I did back in June. It's now getting to the end of July. I really need to film these videos and just edit them and upload them, I've been trying to space them out a little bit, but it seems too late. But I have a lot to say about Suspiria, so I actually think I'm going to talk about Some Like It Hot and The Divorce of Lady X first, so that I can make sure I get them in, and then just talk about Suspiria for the rest of the video. So starting with Some Like It Hot, this is one of the few films that I watched that I actually own. So this is just a regular Blu-ray edition that I have. And this was a rewatch for me. I've seen this countless times. The reason why I did rewatch it though is because my mom recently read a book that had to do with the main character working on the set of the film and forming a friendship with Marilyn Monroe and I don't know what else. I guess that's all I know about the book. I don't even know the title of it. But my mom was unfamiliar with Some Like It Hot and hadn't seen it before, so she knew I had it and asked if I had it. And she asked me if I would watch it with her and we can watch it together and she could see it for the first time. And so that's what we did. And she really enjoyed it, which I'm glad because it's actually one of my favorite movies, definitely one of my favorite classic comedies. And I think actually it gets funnier the more I watch it, which I already have said that I've seen it countless times because the reason why I've seen it so many times and don't know, I've just completely lost track at this point, is because I actually wrote about it for a social psychology paper and analyzed the characters and talked about the characters and the social setting and all sorts of stuff. Social psychology stuff. And I pretty much just let the Blu-ray play the film over and over again. I think this is actually a disc though that once it stays at the main menu for however many minutes, then it will just automatically play the film. So I just kind of let that happen, which is one of the reasons why I've seen it so many times. But then also I needed to make sure that I was getting the full plot and looking at things very carefully so that I was accurately talking about things for my paper. Also, I had just seen it a handful of times on my own, not including when I had to write that paper. And Some Like It Hot just happened to be the film that I chose for that project, by the way. Anyway, my mom really enjoyed it. And I think the best part that came out of this is that I think it opened her up to watching more classic films. I guess it's something that she sort of rejected when she was a kid because her parents made her watch classic movies a lot, or they only watched classic movies, so she didn't like them growing up, and that's kind of the way her mind has always been. And yeah, so I think she's open to watching more classic films. She asked me about a few other classics that I have, I think just other Marilyn Monroe films and Audrey Hepburn films, so hopefully I can watch more classic movies with her, because we don't have that much overlap in terms of films that we both enjoy a lot. And I guess since I haven't said anything about the plot of Some Like It Hot, I'll briefly describe it to you if you don't know. So Some Like It Hot is about two jazz musicians who work at a speakeasy. It's the 1920s. It's 28 or 29, I think. And the speakeasy gets raided, and so they're out of a job. And in search of a new job and getting to that job, they witnessed the St. Valentine's Day massacre, essentially. That's what it's supposed to be. And so then this mob boss, Spats Colombo, I think that's his name, is after them because they're witnesses and they're loose ends. So they're being sought after by the mob to be murdered. So that they're not found, they dress up and disguise themselves as women and get jobs in an all-women's jazz band and go to Florida. And they meet Sugar Kane, who is Marilyn Monroe's character, by the way. Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis are the two main characters other than Marilyn Monroe. And then Tony Curtis's character ends up falling for Sugar. So it's a lot of hijinks. It's a lot of identity stuff. I think it's really funny. So then The Divorce of Lady X, this is from 1938. Mostly. I just think that this movie was annoying. I didn't like it. It ended up being a rewatch for me, actually, which I didn't realize. Did I just say actually twice? I have to stop saying that. But it ended up being a rewatch for me, which I didn't realize until like halfway through the film or like an hour through the film or something like that. One of the ways that I've watched a lot of classic films is just by getting into the filmography of a specific person. And I think I watched this around my I have to watch everything Laurence Olivier is in phase, because Laurence Olivier is one of the main actors in this. And then Meryl Oberon, I think that's the actress's name. I don't actually have it written down. But she played Leslie, who was one of the most annoying characters I think I've ever encountered. This is about, like, fog starts rolling in London, and there's this party happening at this hotel, and the fog's so thick that the hotel makes everyone at this party stay overnight, except the only problem is that all of their rooms are booked. So then Meryl Oberon's character, Leslie, sort of charms her way into staying in the sort of like living room area of Laurence Olivier's character's like hotel room, because he's staying by himself and she doesn't want to sleep on a cot, basically. And it was just like, I can see how, like, her character was supposed to be, like, charming and funny. I just found her annoying, and I felt uncomfortable with it. Like, I feel like if it was the other way around, if it was, like, a girl staying in a room, and then the guy was trying to, like, charm his way into staying in the living room area of the girl, like, that's weird. That's very... It's creepy to me, and like the intrusion, I don't like it. It's intruding on personal space, and like, why didn't Laurence Olivier just be like, can you go away, and like push her out or something? I don't get it. But for some reason his character falls in love with her and things like that. But it also has to do with like, she pretends to be somebody else. Like, it's sort of like this case of mistaken identity, and Laurence Olivier's character thinks that she's somebody else. And then, like, oh God, it's so frustrating. This movie was so frustrating because then Leslie was, like, angry at I don't know Laurence Olivier's character's name, but, like, Leslie was angry at Laurence for, like, treating her a certain way when he thought she was, like, a married woman, and like was angry at him for thinking like certain things because she was pretending to be somebody else, or like not clarifying that she wasn't this person. Like, you can't, I just don't understand. It's so frustrating. That's why I didn't like this, because I was so frustrated and it was annoying and it wasn't charming. It was just like, why are you just, whatever happened to the truth? I just don't get it. Let's actually look at my notes here though and see what else I wrote. The bathroom in it looked like the bathroom in The Shining. Oh, and also this is a movie that takes place that was filmed. That's from the 30s. And in one of my previous videos, I mentioned a movie called The Hypnotist, which I watched, and I think it's supposed to take place in the 30s. I'm actually not sure, but it looks like a film from the 30s, even though it was made in 2001. So this is one of those films that was like a really good reference for watching The Hypnotist and thinking it looked like a 30s film, and then watching this one and being like, wow, this is exactly what I meant when I was talking about and what I was thinking when I was watching The Hypnotist. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll link that video in the description and in the card. Oh yeah. Wait, why do I feel like I've seen this now? Because you have. What kind of law is this? What is he saying? What is he doing? Why are they teaching Logan, that was the main character's name, a lesson when Leslie was the deceiver? He was honest at least. It just was so frustrating. Like, at the end of the movie, it was like, we have to teach him a lesson for treating you this way. And it's like, but he thought that she was a different person and a married person. Like, of course he's gonna treat her differently. I just don't get it. I don't. Okay, we're moving on to Suspiria, which is actually the film I have a lot to say about. I also have my tablet here next to me that will help me in a way, because I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I wrote on my letterbox a bunch of thoughts for my review because I couldn't just leave it at like a rating. I ended up rating it 3.5 stars out of 5, which I think I would stick to. But in hindsight, it's interesting because it's not a film that I particularly enjoyed when I was watching it, but now I'm like, yeah, I liked it. But I feel like I like it more now compared to when I was watching it. So hopefully this isn't too all over the place. I'm not exactly sure where to start, especially because I have my Letterboxd review here, as well as like the notes that I wrote when I was actually watching the film. First I'll start off with the synopsis. How about that? So, I can't remember when the original Suspiria was made, but this is a sort of, I feel like remake is too strict, it's too specific. I just sort of think of it as like Luca Guadagnino and Tilda Swinton's version of Suspiria. They just took ideas from the original Suspiria, from Dario Argento, and created their own thing and did their own thing with it. Because I don't like the word reimagining for it. I don't know why, I just don't. But I think remake is too strict, is too strong of a word. And when you use the term remake, everyone just kind of gets all like, oh, they're making a remake of this, why do we need this? Which I'm kind of one of those people too. But I like it when new people are attached to a film and want to make a film of their own, just using these sort of concepts that we're already somewhat familiar with, maybe. So Suspiria is about Susie, who comes to, this is like this 2018 version. Susie moves to Germany. I watched it on Amazon Prime, by the way, and The Divorce of Lady X I watched on the Criterion Channel, although I don't know if it's on there anymore, so sorry about that, even though I just said that was really annoying, so like don't really recommend it. And Suspiria, I think you should watch for yourself and figure out your own ideas about it. Anyway, yeah, so Susie, she moves to Germany to work for this like ballet company and sort of go to this ballet school. She's very infatuated by and drawn to one of the like head choreographers, I guess, ballet dancers there, Madame Blanc, who is played by Tilda Swinton. Actually, she has like 3 characters. She plays like 3 characters in this movie, which I feel like is a little unnecessary, but we'll get to that in a bit. Yeah, so Susie comes to work for this dance company, dance school, but there are sort of supernatural things happening, and it turns out that the women who run the company are like witches, and the oldest one, like there's kind of like a tier of like followers, I guess. There's like the 3 mothers, plus their head followers, and then all the other followers, and then all the people that the followers are just trying to like use, and I'm not exactly sure what their end goal is. It's been quite some time since I've actually seen Suspiria, the original, and Inferno, and Mother of Tears, which is the original like trilogy by Dario Argento that deals with this sort of mythology, I'll call it. Is it called the Mothers Trilogy? That's what I want to call it, but I'm not exactly sure. I kept on meaning to look this up so I was accurate, but clearly I forgot. I always have information in the description anyway, so there'll be clarification there. But one of the like head of the coven, I guess, she is old. And her like spirit, like Mother Marcos, she has to be transferred to like another body, another vessel, another there's another word here that I'm forgetting. Host, there we go. And so they're trying to find the right girl to be the new like host body vessel for Mother Marcos. So I guess I will start with some things that I liked about the film. I'm trying to like organize my thoughts as I'm going here. So things that I liked about the film, I do very much like the way that it was shot and like certain cinematographic elements of it. I liked the lighting. I liked weird like weird like effects that they did to kind of show supernatural elements or like otherworldly things happening or like present. It wasn't really overwhelming though. I mean the color palette is very dark and just kind of muddy and grim, which is such a contrast to the original Suspiria. It's very hard. I'm someone who, like, when I watch a remake or like a reimagining or whatever of something that already has, if I'm watching something that is coming from other source material, whether it be like a book or there's already been a sort of original film of it, it's really hard for me not to compare the two. So going into it, I would try to take away what you know of and what you like and what is most memorable from the original Suspiria, because when I think about that film, it's like these bright, vibrant colors and ballet and weird lighting and lots of like colorful, like the sort of glass stained windows and like blood but like vibrant red blood. You're like, that's fake blood, like that kind of thing. And like practical stuff, I don't know. And that's a lot of stuff that I love the colors and the lighting of the original film, and it's just such a contrast compared to this one that's a lot of like gray and tannish, muddy tones to it, which I like that it's like its own thing. And I'm hoping that it kind of becomes even more of its own thing, because something that I like about it, just because it's Suspiria, but wanted more from, is the whole lore and mythology of the Three Mothers. I want to know more, and I don't know if they're gonna do like Inferno and Mother of Tears, but I would like them to, just to have this sort of like thorough world. And I'm not sure how to like describe it, but I want more that has to do with, again, I'm just using the terms like lore and mythology of what the Three Mothers are and their purpose. Like, I think that's just the question that I, like, okay, so they want to live forever, but like, what are they doing? Like, Mother Marcos needs a new body to continue to live, but like, what's their ultimate goal? I don't know. Also, this is more spoilery territory now. Madame Blanc, who is the main character that like Tilda Swinton plays, like at one point you think that she's dead, and then it turns out that she's not dead. And I would just like love to see what happens like with her character, especially because now that I think about it, like everyone at the end just dies. They're all just dead because Mother Suspiria just kills them all. So I want to know like what happened. I just want more, basically. But yeah, Madame Blanc, you like think that she's dead, and then it turns out that she's not. And I liked her character. I was kind of iffy as the film was like progressing, though. I ended up liking her more. And yeah, there was like this weird connection that she had with like Susie, and I was like, what's happening here? I was here for it though. I was there for it. Yeah. But then it like turned out that Susie was like Mother Suspiria, and I'm just like, but was she like the whole time? Is that like why she was drawn to the company in the first place, is like because Mother Suspiria was like a part of her still, or like subconsciously helping her to get to where she needed to be or something like that? Yeah, that's something that I didn't even think about before. I'm trying to express thoughts, but at the same time, I don't want to go too much, I think, now that I am filming this. I don't want to go too much into what I talk about in my review, because like you can just read that if you want to. But I do have to say, something that I have to mention is that, and this is probably something that I should have said before, but there is a few gruesome scenes. I think I was eating popcorn at one time in this movie, and that wasn't happening after a certain point. Specifically, there's a scene where a character named Olga she dies. And she's in this room alone, and she's in this enclosed room alone, and Susie is downstairs or upstairs, I don't know. They're on different floors and in different rooms, and Susie is dancing, and it's one of the only scenes where Susie is like dancing. I think it's the first scene where she dances in front of all the other dancers, because she's like the new one there. And Olga is in this room alone, and the movements that Susie does, like start controlling Olga and twisting her body and like contorting it, and just like, it's so gross. It's so gross. That was the grossest thing. Like at the end, or what I would call like the climax of the film, there's a lot of blood and I could deal with that, but like this was disgusting, and like it made me like physically, like I didn't like it, because I just don't like it. So kind of a warning there. Um I think it went a little too over the top though. Like it's only because it was so like PG up until that point. Well, except for the language. It was so PG up until that point, and you're like, okay, this is the kind of film we're watching now. And speaking of the sort of what I call the climax scene, which is like when Mother Suspiria has like sort of taken over Susie's body officially, and you find out that she's Mother Suspiria, and then she just starts like killing all the women basically who run the dance company. I would call that the Mother Suspiria rising, sort of like climax of the film. I think that is the point of the film where it either like loses you or confirms, like I feel like that's sort of like the breaking point where people were like, "Oh, I don't like this film," or people were like, "Okay, I'm on board with this." Like I think it's a scene where people can be like, "Oh, it's gone too far." It kind of like jumped the shark. I don't know, that's an expression my dad uses all the time. So, yeah, I didn't mind it though. I mean, I just think it was interesting and I want more from it, especially um because there's this like character that's a psychiatrist, and one of the other characters is like talking to, and he kind of it's this weird, I don't understand this. I don't know if they did this on purpose. There are just things I have questions about. So this is a character that Tilda Swinton plays, is this like old man psychiatrist, and he was talking to one of the former like dancers who ends up going missing, and like he ends up learning more about this whole like the three mothers and things like that, and because the character who was seeing him, who ends up like disappearing because the mothers like do something with her and like take her away so that she's not like a loose end. They were trying to have her be the new like vessel or body for Mother Marcos, but it ended up like not working out for whatever reason. So I kind of like, I'm pretty sure at the end he like ends up losing his memory of like everything that had happened, because he was actually there for that like climactic scene where like Mother Suspiria just like kills all the other or all the supporters of Mother Marcos. That's what happens. She kills the supporters of Mother Marcos, including Mother Marcos, who obviously was supporting herself. Is it Mother Marcos? It's Mother Marcos, right? Not like Madame Marcos, because it's Madame Blanc, but it's Mother Marcos, right? What else? I was gonna say, okay, the one major thing that I did not like about the film is the historical and political context of it. Like, it didn't do much for me. So I don't understand why it was necessary, because they tried to incorporate it in the film, but I was just like not interested in it, and don't understand why it had to be in there in the first place. I mean, I sort of get it, because the girl the girl who goes missing, well, is missing to the other dancers, but the women who run the company ended up like taking her and stuff, and she was like seeing the psychiatrist. Like, she was part of I guess a political movement or something, and so it's kind of an excuse, like, oh, she probably just like, you know, was on a mission. On a mission isn't necessarily the right wording there, but you know, she was for this cause and for this revolution, and so she's you know, doing something with that, and just left the company. Like, it kind of works as an excuse for why she's not there anymore, but we don't need like all this other context and like explanation of things, and it's still not even like enough explanation. Like, I don't understand part of it. So I'm gonna look at my review here on my tablet and see if there's anything else that I want to talk about, but I will link my Letterboxd review in the description if you want to read it yourself, because a lot of things that I discussed other things in here that I didn't mention in this video. Okay, I think I did a good job. Hopefully it wasn't... I think I'm usually all over the place. I tend to use that phrase a lot when it comes to the way that I speak about and explain and discuss movies or just like anything. So hopefully that was all right. I covered everything that I think I want to cover. So, I mean, ultimately, I liked it. I kind of want more from it. I want more with the lore, with the mythology of the mothers. I don't care for the historical context. I don't understand why Tilda Swinton had to play 3 characters. Whatever. Like, was there meaning behind that? I don't know. I'd be curious to see, though, like, what I think of it upon a rewatch. Especially knowing knowing those aspects about it and knowing about the pacing. There are a lot of cuts in this. I think that's another thing I didn't like that much. There are a lot of cuts and a lot of, just 10-second clips and, shots or, just 3 seconds. I don't know, random things that's supposed to, heighten the suspense and intrigue, and then it just abruptly stops and continues with the story, and it just sort of made it seem like it was going to be more of a thriller, more horrific or something like that, which it was in the way that it was grotesque. Specifically, I'm thinking of that scene with Olga dying, but it made the pacing feel really weird. It was like a roller coaster, and I just don't like that many cuts. Especially when some of those scenes looked really cool. This is something that I touched on a little bit more in my Letterboxd review, but for example, in the trailer, it shows Mother Marcos in the basement or something, and you can see her hand scratch the ceiling and sense the presence of a good vessel or something like that. And it's literally just that 5 seconds of the film, but they show it in the trailer, and it's but that's a really cool part that you're showing in the trailer that isn't even that much of the movie itself. And I kind of wish that those scenes were a little longer and there were more scenes like that, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. I wish I'm curious to see what I would think upon a rewatch and what else they're going to do, if they're going to do Inferno and Mother of Tears as well. I know that Luca Guadagnino is now a lot more sort of in demand. He's going to be working on the Call Me By Your Name sequel, which I don't know how I feel about that. I wasn't a huge fan of the film. I think I actually enjoyed the book more, but anyway, that's it for this video, and I'm going to film the next one right after this. So mostly if you've seen the Suspiria remake, even though I just went on that whole remake spiel, I'd love to know what you thought about Suspiria. And if you've seen the other 2 films, what you think about those. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!